So welcome everyone to BPM RealTalk show. My name is Mark Khabe. I am one of the co-founders of Prime BPM, and I will be the host for the show today. As you all know, we really wanted to establish a platform where BPM practitioners from around the world, right, from different regions, come along and share their experiences, their journeys, their obstacles, their successes, but most importantly, also their failures. Hence, we started BPM RealTalk. So today we actually will talk about quite an interesting topic, and we've had conversation about this topic in the past as well, but different lenses. So today we're going to focus on talking about, how do we move away from mindset of just metric-focused process improvement initiative to a people-centric process improvement initiatives. And we've got a guest from North American region. We've probably got around roughly 20 odd years of experience in program management, project management. He has held various roles in strategic planning, leadership, right from cross-functional leadership to process management related leadership, change management, and he's got really a great proven track record in enhancing organizational enterprise performance. Please join me in welcoming Andy Willums, who is currently a senior project leader at Sonic Automotive in their enterprise project management office. So, thank you, Andy, for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Excellent. So, why don't we start with a sort of simple thing, Andy? Why don't we probably just learn a little bit more about yourself? Our audience would love to understand your roles, the different background where you come from, and so forth.
As you pretty much covered, my background is mainly in project management, but also agile and process improvement. I found that all three of these areas show up in most of the jobs that I've had. They intertwine, and they come along with other things like training, metrics, and change management. I've worked for very small organizations, medium, large organizations over 70,000. On a lot of enterprise and cross-functional work. I've worked on a variety of industries, everything from defense, software, health, insurance, finance, staffing, consumer electronics. And along the way, I think it's almost impossible, to do those kinds of jobs without working with folks from different countries and different time zones and different parts of the world. So over time, it's been Canada, Mexico, South America, Philippines, Romania, UK, France, Ireland, Norway, Netherlands, India, Brazil. I mean, it's the way of the world now, right?
Yeah. It's amazing. And we talked about sort of global organizations. So I'm sure different industries, different geographies, and different size of the organization has got their own nuances. It's going to be exciting to have a conversation today. Well, thank you for being here, Andy. So why don't we probably just let's talk about some of the key elements in how do we shift this process improvement focus, especially for the executive, from moving away from just focusing on key metrics, like especially cost-related metrics, to fostering this mindset of people focus. Are there any sort of quick few steps that you can share with us to drive this sort of transformation in the thought process?
Well, it's not quite as easy as just following a recipe, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. There's always people involved, and people come from their own individual understandings, experiences, motivations, backgrounds, and you said executive management. Well, there's usually 5 or more levels of stakeholders that are going to be affected by any impactful change. So what I've learned using multiple models, everything from TQM to software CMM, from even Six Sigma, is you start by addressing the pain points, and you find a ready, willing, and able pilot team that is directly affected by this issue, and genuinely wants to solve a problem and improve the process. Early successes like that can be a seed carrier, right? To kind of give credit, prove out the idea, get better ideas and acceptance for others to get involved and do similar efforts. So you want to promote the collaboration, you want to give credit to those champions. But it's also important to not be, how should we say, willy-nilly, right? You want to have a consistent process, if you will, of how to do process improvement so people know what to expect. One of the big takeaways for me in learning the Six Sigma way is you want to take a measure of how things are before and then show afterward and over time to show objectively and numerically what the change was. But on the people side, I have to build in support, control mechanisms. Training has to be there, tools and templates. And like I said, you want to check on measurement, not just at the closeout of the effort, but you want to, either monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, so you can make sure to do it what's intended, see how it evolves. And another people aspect is make it fun. I've had the whole team upon closure do songs, skits, decorate cupcakes. It's much better to these efforts push up from the bottom rather than be dictated down. And even like with project management services, you're much more willing to spread and be accepted if it's pulled from you rather than you trying to push out.
It's quite interesting. And it's nice what you talked about, the collaboration aspect from a people point of view, but also Six Sigma before and after, and really celebrating those early wins by making it fun. Finally, that cohesive structure. And you also talked about this having kind of clear structural approach to your process management so you can have predictable outcomes. And that's what people are looking for, right? They think a lot of team members struggle to understand the know-how, so there's a predictable outcome. So no, that's what's are there any particular examples that probably, Andy, you can share with us? We have a lot of people where we're focusing on the human aspect led to sort of better outcomes. And then you have a vast array of experience. So I'm sure you come across those. It would be great for our audience to understand some real life examples and focusing on the human aspect led to successful outcomes.
Sure. People are always going to be at the center of operations and process improvement. It's people to make the world go around. In fact, it's my take that humans are amongst the most routine animals on planet Earth. They really want to know what's expected. You can have really cool processes and tables of statistics and pretty charts. But at the end of the day, if the people don't understand or care, it doesn't matter. An important principle I found is you want to have both input and review by those affected during these process improvement efforts, because that's buy-in. It's also borrowing from an old total quality management principle that the folks who are working the front line, know their piece is the best. So rapport, building relationships, even acting as a cheerleader along the way. So another aspect is sponsors and stakeholders may have different preferences on how they make decisions and how they receive information. So this same thing goes for project management is don't assume how they take those in. Sometimes you just have to ask, how would you like it? How many different ways? How frequently?
Makes sense. So are there any, in your current projects that I'm sure you are probably involved in various projects where there is a particular example of a process or a scenario where you've seen a significant improvement as a result of being human-focused approach rather than a metrics-focused approach?
Sure. Let's see. I guess the specific examples. The same kind of challenges for process improvement are the same for project management going back decades. Everything from what are the requirements we're trying to solve, scope creep, like we started doing this and then, people want to keep adding to it.
Yeah.
Lack of sponsorship, changes, lack of dedicated resources, politics, turf guarding, changes in priorities, stakeholder engagement, things like that. So, you get a team together, and this has happened before, and you start working on process improvement effort, and then the manager somewhere along the line of that challenges the scope of the process improvement effort, or even suggests a solution to it. So one way to counter that is to start with a chart at the very beginning, stating what the problem and boundaries are, so that you have a bucket or a parking lot for other ideas for the future that you can put on the backlog that get identified along the way of your process improvement effort. Those could very well be valid ideas, and people need to be heard, but you can't afford to derail the effort in front of you or get bogged down from the original purpose. So I would, going back to an earlier principle, I would make sure that the team working it has broad input review and that they're representing their areas so everyone feels involved and gets their take on it. But you have to be careful about, keeping the scope where it is. You got to keep it small, focused, and fast. Otherwise, the entire backlog of process improvement can lose credibility.
Amazing. We talked about the small, focused, and fast. I think that's quite critical, right, to create that initial momentum in your process improvement project. That can't make sense. So it's quite interesting because you've done a lot of work in sort of stakeholder engagement, and you talked about that just before as well. So any sort of tips on any sort of communication methods of communicating on why we're doing what we're doing here, right? Especially for different stakeholders. So have you any tips on different strategies that you use for communicating to executives, to middle managers, frontline staff on this process improvement initiative ended?
Yes, let's say different stakeholders have different needs. Everybody's pretty much coming to the table with what's in it for me, and how they're affected. I think knowing the why is very important for everyone involved, to know why changes are being sought after in the first place. It's very suitable for different communication forums to exist for different audiences. Some will cross over. It could be monthly metrics packages. It could be newsletters, steering committees.
But
all of those methods help bring visibility and engagement. And as we all know, the people have different preferences for how they receive information and how they learn. It could be text, it could be data, it could be visuals. So, the best result is to have a combination of all of those. We've even seen color blindness, right? So you can't just give a stoplight with green. Sometimes you have to put the RYG right inside of that. So just more inclusive, but again, people receive information in different ways.
Gotcha. Let's go. And look at it. It's that's been our message that we keep receiving, that communicating the why, and it's really good to validate that with you as well, to sort of see you can't just provide this similar information packed to all layers, right? They'll got their own little nuances you want to see, and executive to middle managers to the frontline staff. And can you, throughout your 20 odd years of experience there, Andy, are there any particular patterns like that you've seen, or these are the top 3 obstacles that I keep seeing when it comes to process improvement initiative?
Well, I talked about the scope and countering that with a charter. Another example would be I was doing a second iteration of the digital transformation, and the sponsor just could not or would not, really specify the requirements for the area. Kept insisting that there are breakouts in the process every time it touches anything or everything.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, let's just take a step back here. Can you afford to meet with us twice a week? And I got on my team and we started doing rapid prototype, which required more dedicated focus, time, and energy. But, we adapted to what their needs were. It also built a rapport. And I gave the example of everything they asked for. I called it the Frankenform, like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I said, are you sure you want this? This is how ugly it is. You're like, oh, okay. Okay. So sometimes you have to, put a branch out there just to show that you're trying to work and find a compromise in the middle. But, not everything happens at once. I think our success there was to adapt to the needs, to keep the stakeholders engaged and keep the effort moving forward. There's another example here of, I was updating a backlog and a roadmap of process improvement efforts for an organization. Build up steam, get ready to do some more, keep the work laid out in front of us. And all of a sudden there was a lack of confidence that rose its head by our customer service department, that they didn't believe the quality of our retail product. They thought it had kept getting worse. I was like, is that true? I'm not going to dismiss it right out the gate. Let's find out.
Yeah.
So we analyzed 2 years of product release data and did a dot plot of all the trends, numbers of defects, severity, where when in the process they were found. And it showed that everything was progressively getting better. But that the management and the messaging of that had not been consistent. And it turns out that there were long-standing perception problems between development, quality assurance, and customer service. So the lesson learned out of that is, if you don't proactively toot your own horn and let everybody know what's going on and cheer the successes and say, here's what we're doing next.
Yeah.
People are free to fill in the gaps.
Yep.
Right. In their own heads. And if there's silence from you, they're free to kind of make up a story that goes along. Generally, it's not a positive one. So communication is an ongoing process itself. It's not a one and done.
Makes sense. You talked about it's scope. It's of course the commitment from the executives. It's also focusing on data, right? Not just a gut feel, but perception, but validating that perception through the data. And you gave a really interesting example about trend, what you talked about from your customer service with questions about catalog and so forth. Very, very interesting. Yeah, that's excellent. So really, let's probably talk about some of the strategies that you have implemented to foster a overarching culture of continuous improvement. And see that maybe some of the things that you touched upon it initially as well. But if you have to summarize it, sort of key strategies in fostering the culture of continuous improvement, what do you think they would be?
Well, we've touched on some of those. Some are more principle based. Keep it focused, keep it small, keep it moving, have diverse representation, give credit to everyone involved, keep the communication and cheerleading going. It's easy to get lost in the whole metrics part. There's an old saying of be careful of what you measure for, because that's the behavior you'll get. So if you focus on closing defects, all of a sudden you may end up with more defects that need closed, which takes away from time and energy of doing. Most quantitative metrics seem to center around time, cost avoidance, production rates, things like that. But you can overdo good things. When people are getting started, I would suggest for every department, narrow down to the top 3 to 5 to measure that really matter. And if you have to grow that, be slow and be very conscious about it. Yeah. I would say that there are other elements to it too, like customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction. These may not show up on survey numbers, but they'll show up in long-term business and revenue. One example, I joined an organization, and within like the second day on the job, I found out they had just done a survey. Okay. Right. And survey results were presented to management, part of management. But I didn't know anybody there. It was brand new. And they were going to start taking actions on all these things that they interpreted from the results. I'm like, hold on a second. Why don't we try to validate that first? Yeah. So I called everyone who did the survey into a room and practiced academic non-attribution, which means that everybody agreed that it was a safe place to say what needed to be said, that no one outside, leading the meeting would say, well, Bob said this and Susie said that. We don't need any of that. We're trying to get down to the actual facts. Like someone was saying, the benefits got worse. I'm like, okay, I'll buy. How did they get worse? How much did they get worse? What would you think they should have been? So I think that's a good technique is the independence and objectivity, sometimes that are interjected, and not to assume even survey results. It turns out that once we went through that exercise, the action items for management were quite different from what they originally thought.
Amazing. And this is the kind of, I think, the real life experiences what you shared, Andy, are going to be quite powerful for our audience today. But look, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Some of the key things that even I picked up today was, be careful on what you measure, right? Because that's going to drive the behavior. So just being metric focused on your process improvement initiative is going to drive your objectives and structures, how you're going to actually drive that improvement volume. So, look, Andy, we're almost running out of time, but thank you very much for your time today and sharing the insights and your wisdom of last 20 years with our audience today. For our audience, our viewers, thank you for joining us today. And I would like to remind you again to stay connected with our BPM RealTalk show. Let's subscribe to it. We have lots more exciting episodes coming up, each with its unique perspective and inspiring stories like Andy, what he shared today. We thank you for being part of this incredible journey with us. So stay inspired, informed, and empowered